A very good morning to all of you, and a very warm welcome to this session on mastering organizational dynamics. This is a session that's going to be moderated by Rita Parekh, and the agenda for the day, the way the session will flow is she'll introduce the topic to you so you know more about it. She'll introduce the speakers, and then we go into the panel discussion. And we also have some time for the Q&A that if you would like to talk to the panel members, ask your questions, get some more insights, we have some time for that as well. So to begin the session, I would like to invite Rita to take the floor and interact with all of you and also introduce the panelists. Hi, Rita.
Thank you, Savarna. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, so all of you can see I have chocolates. I'm going to start with a few questions. Just walk around in the audience a little bit and ask questions. So the topic says organizational dynamics. Can someone tell me what organizational dynamics is? Or what does it mean to you? Say whatever comes to your mind. The culture, the process, okay? The pulse of the organization. Louder? Dynamics within an organization. And what do you mean when you say dynamics within an organization? Come on, give me a crude word for politics. That's what we are looking for. And I'm sure this is why all of you are here. We have a full room out here. Okay, I don't intend to say that, I understand politics perfectly, but I've been very interested in politics for a while now because what we see is talent alone doesn't bring any of us forward, right? We've seen in organization that we need a good mix of other skills apart from talent to take us further in the organization. And what are these skills? Politics comes at the top, right? And so there's a framework put up by this lady called Bonnie Marcus, and she's an author and also a women's success coach. What she says is you need to actively work on developing your political acumen. And how do you go about building your political acumen? She says we do that in stages, and she's recommended 4 stages. So the first stage, I know all of us can relate to, when we are 100% work focused and we are completely naive. We don't know what's going on around us. Someone's probably taking advantage of us. Someone's probably hiding information from us. This is the first stage all of us are aware of. To overcome this phase, we get to the second stage. The second stage is when we start understanding the significance of relationships in the organization. We start understanding where the power is and where the influence is. And some of you who attended the session right before this one heard Anuj mentioning that, power doesn't come only with titles. And this is something we learned during this phase, right? Once we've gone through this phase, we start actively preparing a career strategy for ourselves. This is where we look at, networking from a more strategic perspective. We start managing people and the environment around us much better, and we start feeling more comfortable about our own accomplishments. So we have an audience handout. You will see this also on the audience handout in case you're trying to take pictures. And the final stage is where you're completely politically savvy. You know how to use your personal influence to get what you want, to get what your team wants. And these are not for selfish reasons, but for the reasons of advancing your own business, right? So in this phase, essentially what you need to do is make sure you maintain your credibility and visibility in the organization. Bonnie's given this lovely framework for us. We've also included it in the audience handout. Bonnie has been also kind enough to make a special quiz for our audience, and she's also given us 10 career tips to look at. I suggest please look at it after this session. For now, I'd like to invite all our panelists on the stage, and request them to give us more insights into this. The way we'll run the panel discussion is our team has done a lot of research in the background and collected scenarios and sample questions across each of these phases or each of these stages, and we are going to ask questions within these stages. And after we go through all the 4 stages, we'll have ample time for the audience to ask questions. So any political questions that we've not addressed, feel free to ask here. I'd like to urge each one of you to ask as many difficult questions as possible because we have a great panel out here. Okay, so let me first start with Haresh. Haresh is an executive coach, and he's also on the advisory committee of quite a few startup companies. In fact, Haresh, one of his startup organizations has won an award which he's going to receive today evening. Could I please invite Lata, Dr. Lata on the stage? Dr. Lata is a multifaceted personality. She started in the corporate career, went on to try a startup stint on her own, and then now she's in the academics. She's an HOD at Amrita Vishwavidyapeetham. Okay. Next we have Lalita. Lalita is also a friend of mine. She worked with IBM for a long time, and now she's the director and center head of a company. When she started with this company, Cargill, there were only 30 people on board. She's grown it to up to 500 people in just 1 year. Okay, and last but not the least, we have Uma. Uma is a senior vice president with SAP, and she's a regular speaker at GHC as well. Welcome, Uma. Okay, so I'll go back to this so that we have it as a reference. So are you all ready for very, very tough questions? Okay. So let me first start with Haresh. Haresh, politics and power go together, right? And when we are in stage 1, one of the standard questions I used to have at least was, why some people have a lot of power and the others don't?
So first of all, sitting among all these ladies, I was feeling so nervous. So last evening, what I got advice was that first time you get an opportunity, speak as much as you want. Later, I may not get opportunity. So, I think the power when somebody says, it comes from many places, I mean, it could be positional power, you are CEO of the company. You could be associated to CEO, so you could be secretary if the power comes from there. It could be charisma of your personality, so it could be coming from there as well. There could be multiple places from power comes. I think we are talking about this positional power. Somebody feels, oh, this guy is so powerful. In my work as an executive coach, I get to work with a lot of people who are considered powerful by a lot of people. So you are not powerful, but people who considers you powerful, that makes you powerful actually. Otherwise you are by yourself, you're just a person. I was looking at all those people, and then there was also a Forbes list of most powerful people on the earth recently which came out. I was looking at them, and then top 10 people, out of this 7 are politicians. So I was looking at this, that what's common between the people whom I know and this top 10 guys, and some of the traits which came out very common. The first thing, obviously, political power. You have to have a political power, and best thing, the Forbes, the way evaluate it, are you using it? So you have to use your political power as well. So this was the first trait. The second thing.
When you say political power, you mean the power of the position?
Power of position, yeah, power of position. Okay, you have to use this power, basically. This is what they say. I also felt that the people with whom I was working, I think they are really using their political power because they are at the boss and then they can really do the veto kind of stuff. The second thing which came to my mind, and also it was very common between these two, they're very objective people, absolutely objective. We all have network, we all talk about networking, we have tons of friends. We always hang around with them and do all the things what may or may not contribute to the organization. These guys are very objective. they will do exactly what helps them to achieve what they want to achieve. You would not see these powerful people hanging around with the friends. They have a lot of friends, but they won't be hanging around with them all the time. Whenever, unlike us basically, we do all those things. So they're very objective. They know exactly what they want. From look from other side, you will say, oh, this guy comes to me only when they has work. But that's how he is basically. And the final point I want to leave, I think that you all might want to correlate with yourself. We are all technology people. If somebody is a great Java guy or something, we feel awesome. This guy is superb. But then somebody shows good PPT and things like that, oh, this guy is a hollow. He doesn't know anything actually. Content nahi hai. There's nothing in the inside. I think these people know much bigger thing than content, which I call it as a context. They have a fantastic understanding of context. So context over the content is something which is very innate in these people. So three things basically I wanted to say. I think political power. The second thing which I say is that very objective, and the context. I think whoever has asked this question, Rita, they might want to become powerful, isn't it? I want to be powerful. One small request I have from my experience, and also this list you might see, there are some people who are powerful and only powerful. There is a second set of people, they are powerful but also respected in the organization. Very few out of this top 10 also, you'll find they're respected. Angela is one of the person whom I feel, Angela Merkel, she's respected. So if you're looking for those kind of position, please include respect also in your wish list. Yeah, so that's how I would.
Thank you. So, Lalita, I want to become powerful, like you were saying. What should I do?
I think, very interesting point what he brought up in terms of, technical part of it is one aspect of becoming powerful. But I think besides the technical angle, if you look at the triangle of it, interpersonal skills, right? Being just technically good enough is not going to be enough. So for you to become powerful, you need to understand, obviously, the topmost topic what we have here, the organizational dynamics, and also understand the kind of the business we are operating in, right? I think those two important aspects, if you balance along with the strong technical skills most of you have in the room today, obviously you'll become powerful.
Great, thank you. Soma, the next question is to you. This comes from one of my junior colleagues. She says, I'm technically very brilliant. Very few in my organization can match my technical ability, and the performance reviews also seem to indicate the same. However, when I see around me, everybody around me is in competition, nobody wants to work with me, what's my problem?
I think we have to look at it from a few angles. The first angle is that, what is it that people are looking at? When you grow up in the career, initially, you are focusing mainly on your technical skills, your competence. But as you grow into the next level, you have to also look at how you are bringing the emotions, handling the emotions, interpersonal skills. And this is where many women little bit take a back seat because they feel that they are so focused in their work that they can excel and somehow miss this out. The other example that I want to bring out here is I take strategy sessions in my company. And when I take it, there are a lot of senior women in the classes, and if I ask them, can you articulate the strategy? There are very few. In a class of 30, maybe 1 or 2 can articulate the strategy of the company. So what happens is, as women, even after 10 years, they don't take the time to look at what is happening in the company. So somehow they miss the business acumen. And this also leads to little bit they being looked upon as not savvy enough to go to the next level. So that is the second aspect. The third aspect is when you are so much focused on your career and putting your energy in work, you don't notice that you are creating a threat to the other people. So inevitably, other people are threatened by you, not that you are, they are coming as competition, but they feel threatened. So it depends how you take them along with you on the journey.
It's important to make people feel comfortable. Dr. Lata, you are a techno manager, and I think 80% of your time you spend in technical skills. So I'm sure you have quite a good amount of experience, especially from your academic setting as well.
Yes, Rita.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, coming from a very different background in the stage, the academics, I know all of us have come from that chair to the other chair here. Dealing with a large number of students in the age group of 17 to 21 or 22 is the first challenge, or the first politics, I can say. And second is meeting the stakeholders, say their parents. We are answerable, sitting on the other side, what we teach, what we do. Because I know we take role models right from school, college, everywhere, then the workplace and so on. So that becomes more challenging. So there are two cautions. One is not to show them that there will be politics everywhere. Okay, and politics is not alone a bad word. It is good, provided, as Uma rightly pointed out, growing along with it, or growing with your team, not in politics, or it is in bringing them up together. So I have a very different experience on the first part of the NAVATE. So it's difficult or challenging to prove yourself once you are in a NAVATE stage. So there'll be people above you looking at, okay, you're just an youngster or just into this organization and what you know most. So a typical case, when I went to teaching from industry, people thought that, okay, what she knows, maybe some lines of code here and there in C or C++ or Java, and doing problem solving for others, and not for the people here. So she may not be able to do a worth teaching. So I also did not know initially what to do, stuck up in the real politics within the courts that's there. Then I found out a simple strategy, what I can do. Okay, I think it's better not to sit in my office, in my chair, and look at all the 50, 60 people around with computer science degrees and so on, and then competing with each other in this. So reach out to the students. So go to the class, give them, because I was from a technical background, that is on 10 years in industry, easily connect them to the applications. So if you write a code, where is it actually used? A simple example is, all of us know to solve a prime number. I think most of us would have done it in the first few classes of C programming. So when I went to the class and asked, where do you write this code for solving a prime number, they didn't have any idea. I told all of us have an ATM, a PIN number, and a secret code, most of it which uses it, say a prime number as a strategy, one of the strategies for solving it. Oh, fine, we didn't know this. We thought prime number is a problem that is to be solved, and they will ask in the examination. We have to take this code and write it, reproduce, get ranks, get grades. So what happened when such examples go to them, when they come out of the class and discuss with the other teachers and other faculty members, saying we got some real-time examples, that was one where there was a small breakthrough as a NAVATE. Okay, people started looking, oh, fine. And there was one professor, a very senior professor, asking me, where do you want to go to the class and talk about applications of all this? Just we are here to solve the problems. Ask them to do these 20, 30 programs, they will become good. And companies which come will ask all this, they will get recruited. Okay, fine, but what do they do there after going? Again, somebody has to teach them what to do with a prime number problem. That's why I was trying to fill the gap. Okay, then they started looking at, so each one of us, I know, have that difficulty as a NAVATE. And as Uma said rightly, it is actually building a better perspective of what politics is in the organization is important than rather kindling the fire that is there, saying there is politics, that is it. That's how we are able to successfully come up the ladder in this field.
So two key takeaways I'm taking from what you're saying. One is you use your students as agents to go promote yourself.
Yes.
And then secondly, you also worked a little bit on developing the rapport with people around you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
excellent.
important.
Excellent.
To build confidence on you.
Okay, so these were two questions I had for stage one. Now moving over to stage two, this is the stage when we understand that, great work is necessary. We are reputed for great, everybody knows us for our good work, but we start understanding the significance of building relationships and building a network. So coming to the network side of things, what Bonnie says is, just don't network strategically. how do you go about building a strategic network, and what is the strategic networking?
So strategic network, maybe. The first is, this is a network. I'm coming to GHC for the 6th year. So I know a lot of old phases, new phases, or regular phases. So the one is wherever there is an opportunity, try to network. Right from your domestic helpers at home till the last person that you meet at the end of the day. So that helps you. So the connect gives you a better confidence, and actually it helps you to overcome whatever be the politics that can downplay you. So the best thing is I'm connected to, or all of us should be connected to the schools and the colleges where we graduated from. And the best thing is we get mentors there. So in case we have anything to fall back, like our mom's place, most of us know. So there is somebody who handhold us, help us, mentor us. That's happening even today with most of us. That's first strategy that we should follow, and it's better. And second is to network with your own friends. That is, for me, friends are my students. So around, say, 8,500 plus friends are there. The time they graduate, they become my friend there in the Facebook. Okay, so that's the. So what happens is, the strategy is when you need help. So we may need help at any time. For example, I need to connect to the industries through friendship like Uma and so on, and others for placements or for any other, say, career guidance that I need to give to the students. So one thing is networking is very, very important. And networking in such a group of women is always very much useful, because we can learn from others. When we have a break, we need to take breaks. I've taken breaks. So when we take a break, how do we come back? And then how do we resume? There are people to handhold you. Especially this networking, even Government of India has certain, I don't know if you are aware of this, there is a Department of Science and Technology, there is a career for women in break. Those women who are in break can apply for funding. Sitting at home, they can get say a stipend around 25,000 per month and do a research. So networking is the only thing that helps there. You need to have network. There'll be 5 or 6 people to whom you'll be referred to. So they should vouch saying that yes, this person is worth to give that grant from you. So networking is, another one is to network with your colleagues. So whether it is after office hours or within office hours, that happens. I know typically it is difficult for certain women to network after 6 p.m. because we have our own commitments. But it is essential, not that all the time we need to skip everything that's happening. We need to also take some time and say that we need to network and then be along with others that are there. There's nothing wrong in doing it. That always gives you a positive energy when you meet others. That's how I think the strategy works.
Superb, thank you, Lata. So you mentioned an interesting point, networking after 6 p.m. Harish, I would ask you this question. We see men love to go after office hours for network over a drink. I'm just curious to know what happens out there.
I mean, if you're really feeling left out, don't worry. Nothing happens. I mean, they just drink and go home. They have to bear with the wives also once they reach home. So trust me, these guys are not really having good time. However, this rapport, what gets built over this networking, I think that helps them during the office hours. So that could be the places where you might be feeling a little bit left out. I've seen a lot of time, ladies also complaining or feeling bad that, we are not able to go after 6 o'clock and things like that. In coaching profession, what we always focus is, what do you have in your control? What can you do? I mean, you can always keep complaining about this, and this is not India specific. There was a fantastic article in Forbes, which was also mentioning the same thing, that ladies feel bad that they cannot participate in this beer or evenings, whatever is happening outside. So this is a global phenomena and you cannot do anything about it. So what do you want to do? That's what we always focus. I mean, I always say that create your own calendars. Why do you wait for them to invite you to these evening parties where they have a control over it? As a ladies, basically what all things you have. Go ahead, invite your bosses, colleagues, whomsoever you want to invite at your time. It could be lunch, it could be dinner, but at your time and your convenience. So part one, I would say, create your own calendars. Second thing is, this is a fantastic opportunity. I don't know if we have any conference for men. Even if it is there, I think you will not find anybody before 6 o'clock. After 6 only things happen. So this is a fantastic opportunity like this you have for women. So second is this. Third is, I think, go ahead and attend those beer parties also and leave little bit early before the alcohol level goes really up. You're very safe basically, and you also got that real business talk which was happening. After that alcohol level anyway, talks are not going to work. And I think final thing, so these are the three things when I'm saying, I think final thing, which I want to say, as a girls, what you have in you very, very innate, I think, this is for what you are known. Leverage on that, and that's two things which I always know. The girls are known for being caring. You're soft. I think these are the fantastic things during office hours you can use, leverage on these two aspects. When you're listening to somebody like this, the guys are very happy and they're sharing almost everything.
I love
So go ahead.
Awesome.
Go ahead and use this kind of stuff basically. I mean, you call it politics, theek hai. Squeeze the juice using these two items. That's
Lalita,
what I
you're
would say.
saying something. Thank
Just-
you. Lalita, you have a completely
No,
different
just
perspective.
to add to that, I call something as network with the people who network. Right? If you're not going somewhere next day when your colleagues are back, it's like, kya hua tha? So all the gist you would get it in just 10 minutes without actually having to spend those 2 hours to get that 10 minutes worth of work.
Awesome. Okay, Lalita, we were also discussing about this topic of networking, and you have quite a strong view, and you have created some 2 or 3 categories. Can you talk about those?
So, networking is one part of it, and networking is usually, as I call it, is not about collecting how many visiting cards when you go for an event, right? It is about networking with an intent, and in my career, I strongly believe there are different types of networks that people need to create, right? One is, of course, the peer network, as what Ms. Lata is saying. But also you have what we call it as the developmental network, right? Where you need to go to the people who would take your ideas. If you just have a dream, or if you have an innovative idea, if you don't go ahead and if you don't find sponsors who would be your voice inside the organization to make it a reality, it will just remain as a dream. So you need to really know who are the people who would be your voice inside the organization in your upwards or your peer groups. So that is one kind of a network, which is your development network, the support network, the strategic network, or so there are different kinds of things. And also, being from a technical field, all of you know that if you have something which is an innovative idea, you can't achieve it alone. You need to have a group of people who will come together to make this a reality. So you need to identify what are the skills which you don't have, who are the people who can bring those skills to the table and augment for you to be collectively be successful. So that's the kind of the support networks what you need to build. So just when you look at network, just don't look at it as I need to just go and talk and understand what is happening, but very consciously categorize it into what kind of benefit you want to get out of this and go after it. That would be my 2 cents.
Now I understand that, and that's the strategic part of the network. Okay, since you have the mic, Lalita, how's the decision-making driven in organization? And this question is a very interesting one because it comes from one of my colleagues who says, he's always curious to understand why in some cases decisions are done in meetings, in some cases decisions are done before meetings, in some cases decisions are never announced openly, and they just pop out of nowhere. He wants to understand, how do you go about understanding how these senior executives are making decisions?
So, when I talk about it, I just have to share a small story. I'm not sure how many of you watched this movie called Focus. It's a Will Smith's movie, which is recently, I watched it in one of my long flights. This movie is all about a con man trying to con somebody, a gambler, and he goes there and loses all the money. And he randomly says on the game field, just pick one of the jersey numbers and my girlfriend will guess it. So this girl is obviously not prepared for it, very tensed. And so when the gambler picks a number and she sees the people and she finds one of the familiar faces and picks the number. And it turns out to be 2 and that guy wins a lot of money. So she asks him in terms of how did you manage this? You're just meeting him for the first time. So what he talks about is how these people have been following this gambler for about few weeks before, how they programmed his mind subconsciously to see the number what they want him to see and to see the kind of the person's face they want him to see. So this guy doesn't know that he's unconsciously going to make exactly the same choice what he's expecting the con guy to make him, right? So similarly, so many decisions, when it happens in an organization, there are different patterns. It is very important for you to understand what is your organization decision-making pattern, right? There is some organization where decisions are very spontaneous. So those kind of organizations, you need to really have your data ready to think through quickly, to support the spontaneous decisions, have the mindset to rapidly change with the organization. And there is some organization where you have what I call as the kingpin, right? So the person who has the veto on any decisions that is taken. You can decide as a group, whatever, but there's some boss somewhere who says no, right? So in those kind of organizations, it is absolutely essential for you to know who the decision maker is and what is that which you can do to influence them. But there are also organizations which are very, team-driven or panel-driven kind of a thing. So again, they pick people from different departments to come together to make a decision. So those cases, you need to know what each of the stakeholders in the decision-making team would want from you so that you can influence the decision. But of course, there are also some good organizations where decisions are data-driven and more transparent and more fair from a decision-making perspective. So to your point, I think to deal with it, it is absolutely essential for you to understand what is your organization's style in making these decisions and read the pattern for a while and see how you can align with it so that you can be effective influencers when these decisions happen, either sudden or expected.
And Uma, you are a senior VP. I'm sure you're making a lot of decisions. What's
I
your
think
take?
she has well said it completely. It is about knowing who is making the decision and knowing very well how you can influence it, even if it means going into the inner circle, influencing or finding a chord ahead of the meeting to get to the decision that you need.
And would that be ethical?
Why not? There's a very thin line between being ethical and non-ethical, right? You have to look at what are you taking the decision for, and is it for the betterment of a bigger purpose? And if it
that's the
is,
key.
why not?
That's the key. If we're not doing something for our own selfish motives, then probably it's okay. Okay. So moving over to stage 3, and this is where we're saying we build a career strategy and talking about our own accomplishments. There's this question from one of our colleagues, senior colleagues, who says she scored a major win for her company, and even though she's done a phenomenal work, she's very uncomfortable about marketing it. But at the same time, her promotion is just around the corner and she wants to make the most of this opportunity. So she's asking this question, how do I go about,
Can
making
I
the
first
most?
have a show of hands? How many people are comfortable with self-promotion in the audience? How many of you are comfortable with self-promotion? Very few. How many of you spent time with your boss in the last 15 days talking about yourself and your accomplishments? Again, very few. Researchers show that women spend 30% less time talking about their accomplishments to people around. Now what this means, Harish spoke about dinner. Dinner mein kuch nahi hota hai. True. But at the end of half an hour or 1 hour drinking, the male colleague goes and says, boss, what I met this client and I had a long discussion with him and we are almost sure to get this contract. And that leaves something in the mind of the boss, right? Which you don't do. So how do you do that? And another example is I was talking to my daughter who was now doing PhD, and she was trying to tell me that she Skyped with all the profs before she joined her graduate institute in US. And what this did for her was, even while she was joining, he got a research assistantship, and she was the only girl to get an RA-ship in US for PhD in computer science. And so what this tells me is that self-promotion is not about going around telling everybody what you do, but to speak to your boss, speak to who it matters, and tell them that, this is what I could offer. Instead of saying, I did this, if we can turn this around a little bit and say that, rather than I did this, boss, we did this because it helps our organization, so that you are able to align a little bit of bigger purpose and give a value to the other party, not yourself. You're saying we did this or I did this because this helps you or it helps the organization. If you're able to break that little bit of a change in our conversation, that goes a long way to take away your own self-feeling that, am I talking too much about myself? Because the moment you change this conversation, you are talking about the bigger purpose and where the organization is going, rather than talking about yourself.
That's the key. Yeah, Harish, you want to say something?
I mean, as Uma, you were saying this, I remembered Jack Welch's something where he said how to make your boss look smarter in front of his boss. And I think this is what I think she was also, that's how I gathered it. If you're not comfortable about talking of yourself, I did this, I think it's okay. I think because that's not very natural to you and you would not be able to do that. But when you go to your boss, look at this. Whenever you spoke, when was that people were really listening to you? Only when it was something very important to them. So your boss also would be listening to you only when something important to him would be spoken. Go ahead and speak that, I got this 30 million deal. I think looks like this is only 5% of your target. Is there something more I can do for you? So two things has happened. One is you registered your part. Second thing is I'm also willing to do more basically, So this is where I think you're registering the whole thing. So talking for him, as you said, I think that's really very good, and you're making him look smarter in front of his boss, so interesting.
One of the things that I just want to share that works for me personally is a lot of partners that I work with in my cross-functional space, sometimes they go speak for me to my boss, and it's just a give and take, right? Sometimes I ask for favors, sometimes I give favors. Okay, now this is a little controversial question. I know, Harish, you don't agree with this one. This question says men tend to be competitive and aggressive, whereas women tend to avoid conflicts and want to be collaborative. Now, what happens is when men are aggressive, it's considered okay, it's expected out of them. But when women tend to become aggressive, it's considered out of the line, not taken very well. How do we deal with this? And Lalita, I know you have a very strong opinion about this.
I think the truth is it's a reality, right? It's not, whether you call it a perception or reality, it's one and the same. When women even slightly be ambitious, it's always considered, oh, she's very aggressive. I think that's, most of you would have heard it. How many people? There you go. Do I need to say more? Right? But, in my opinion, point one is to be conscious about it, right? You all need to be conscious about it. If you voice your opinions, if you ask for things, you're always going to be branded as aggressive and ambitious. One, I don't think there's anything wrong in being ambitious, right? Second point is, when you're consistently receiving feedback of being aggressive, it is essential for you to understand how do you you need to be probably assertive than be aggressive, right? So understanding the thin line being assertive, stating what you still want to state without probably being considered out of line and things like that. So, in my opinion, as I said, it's a reality.
Uma, you have something to say?
Maybe I want to add a small incident because I had to deal with a situation where I promoted one of women colleague as a manager among the team, and this person had to face huge amount of resistance. Guess from whom? Which peers? The female peers. More from the female peers than the male peers. And this happens, and this is true, and the immediate instinct for that manager is to quit and leave, right? What am I doing here? Am I doing the right thing? I want to be the good manager. Another step here is if you are in such a situation, to really look for a coach, to really search, am I on the right track? First, to have the awareness, like what Lalita said, to know that this kind of likability factor exists, acknowledge, look for support, mentorship, or coach to understand. And then in my case, at least I was aware of such a bias, and I was able to handle it by speaking to the peers and speaking to the team. But in many situations, it is quite possible that this bias is not even understood in the organization. So it is also your responsibility to create awareness among your peer group and sometimes even to your boss that such a bias exists, and to really ask for support how to get over this bias. And it is possible. Like what Lalita said, it exists. It is for you to know about it and to have your own conviction that whatever comes, I'm willing to get around this and move to the next level.
Thank you, Uma. So let's move over to stage 4. This is the stage where, we've arrived and what we want to do is we want to maintain our credibility that we have created in the organization. Now, surely there is an ever-changing professional and business context around us. How do we maintain our credibility as a leader in such a constantly changing ecosystem?
For me to be able to maintain such a credibility, what is important is how consistent are you in your leadership style? How consistent are you in your decision making? How consistent are you in your own value system? Because you asked this question about, is it ethical or not? Do you have your own value system which guides you, acts as a linchpin for you to say, this is how I will go ahead. These are the decisions which I feel I will make. These are the alliances that I will make in my organization to make forward. Because organizations are full of diverse perspectives, different priorities, and always scarce for resources. And it is for us to really keep this in mind when we take up leadership roles, to really focus and ensure that we are guided by our values and we are going ahead with a consistency to be seen as a credible leader.
Thank you.
So just to add on to what Uma was mentioning, so maybe the leadership is very important because you may move to the next higher role in the next coming years. So during that stint, what did you give back to your colleagues? I think that's what is the value that is there.
Yeah.
So how many of you could you bring up? Just to connect to what Kim was mentioning on her first speech, the inaugural speech, how many of them could you handhold, or could you just give a pat, need not handhold all the time, and bring them up? So that is what is the score at the end of it, and not just your, say, the numbers that you go to the bank at the end of your leadership or when you move to the next role. So that is the best way to bring up a team. That gives you a lot of confidence when you move ahead. So the next role becomes much more easier for you because you already have a team which will be ready to support you to the next, say, any decision making or whatever be that, any critical situation that comes. And this I have personally experienced in my career also. So how many could you bring up when you were in this level 1, when you were in level 2, actually when you move up the level, the numbers that you bring up also should be qualitative and not just the number alone. That's what is, I
Yeah,
think, a success behind this entire journey.
You
Okay.
mentioned an important tidbit yesterday about
Yeah.
your PhD students.
Yeah, just to corroborate, I think I have my own PhD student here. So I don't know, it is just when I completed my PhD, I know how it was difficult to get a mentor. Harish is here and few others are here, but I know it's very challenging to get to work under a male mentor with the different timelines that are there. And it's very difficult to express them why we can't come on this Saturday, 7 p.m. for a discussion on PhD problem or anything that is there. So sometimes it's very difficult to explain, but of course I had a very different person as my PhD guide. And so I know many of my colleagues even dropped their PhD program in between because of various reasons that we cannot list out on that. So when I completed my PhD and started taking it, I thought I should help female faculty members or women who want to do their research. I'm still open. So I have 6 PhD scholars, all of them are women. So that is one thing that I could support because I know what the real problem is. So I know what will be the dimension that I need to expect from them. I know we work as researchers after 9 p.m. Okay, like you all attend calls, we attend to our research from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning. So that's how my thesis was written. All my children knew what IEEE paper was and what coding in MATLAB was than taking food from there this one. So that's how it is. It is challenging. But once you reach the stage, the comfort or the only happiness that I have is I'm able to mentor 5 to 6 women to bring them up to their next ladder.
That's an important takeaway.
Thank you.
I'm still struggling to phrase what I want to say.
Okay, do you want
this
to go to
credi-
Lalita then?
I think,
We'll give you some time to
I'll
think.
start off. I think something will come out well. Because Uma, you were saying right, that consistency is something which talks about, when you talk about credibility, I think consistency is most important. I think you want to see something very consistent of all the leaders with whom you're dealing. Today he's in adventurous mood, tomorrow he's in a caring mood, third day he's innovative. I think you feel confused, isn't it? And Uma also said that you have to you have to live by your core values. Imagine if I tell you to sit like this for 2 seconds or 3 seconds, would you be able to sit? Eventually you'll again go like this. So you are very comfortable the way you are basically, and you said that yes, you have to live by your values. But if I ask some of you, what is your core value? Would you be able to point out to one thing? Yes? No? I have my own doubts because we are all layered people. When we were child, I think we were very different. Then when the school, one more layer, college, another layer, office has put 5, 6 layers to us. The original guy is somewhere dumped inside. Some of the leaders whom we see, Narayan Murthy, the moment you think, I think what comes to your mind? A little bit honesty, transparency. Vishal Sikka, who is receiving award with us today evening. When his name comes up, innovation is something which comes to your mind, isn't it? These are the core to them. I think Google exercise called core value exercise. Simple exercises, there are plenty of them available. You will find out what is really important to you. And I think if your leadership is built on this piece, which is a core value to you, if you are very innovative, talk every time innovative, launch the schemes which are innovative, launch the things, talk about those things in meeting, you'll be very natural. If you're a very caring guy, you can always do the caring kind of stuff, but then those things you should know what is core to you. Yeah. So what I was saying is that if you have to be credible leader, I think your leadership style have to be something which is in alignment with your core value. That's what I would say.
So while I agree with having your core value, and I think also your leadership style has to depend on the situation as well. And that situational awareness will come when your political acumen is built and you reach the 4th stage, you know that the politics are different.
Relate to the
rates
context.
yeah, exactly. Right. So once you understand the organizational dynamics, I think you can build your credibility by taking different flavors based on the situational demands.
Thank you, Lalita. Okay, so in the interest of time, we'll quickly take some questions from the audience. And my urge is ask very, very difficult questions.
Only 2.
I have my last 2 pending here. I'll give it to questions that sound very difficult. Please go ahead. Can we give the mic here, please?
Hi, I'm Nitika from AIG. My question is from stage 3, where we say building strategic relationships. And we also talked about manage your manager. It's also a task when you come to stage 3 and you have to manage your manager. At the same time, you're building strategic relationships. Now, it's a very difficult landmine because sometimes you are in a role where you have to build relationship and you also have to think of what relationship your manager is having. So how do we treat this path very cautiously, because he or she has visibility and you are also going over and above? How to manage these insecurities and stuff like that? I hope you're understanding what I meant to say.
Excellent, thank you.
So I think you brought up a very good point in terms of, they have the information, you said, right? Usually in the organizations, what you will know will depend on who you know. But what they will tell you, it depends on what you will do with the information, right? If you're seen as somebody, as soon as you get the information, you go out and, create gossips about it, you won't hear that information again. But how responsibly you use the information in aligning your skills with the way how organizations are thinking or how the organization direction is changing. So as long as you're able to change yourself to align with the future directions of the organization, you will get information, right? I think that's important, also for you building your strategic relationships.
Thank you, Lalita.
One question here is, I'm Usha from Tesco. One of the things I think sometime back, one of you touched upon is the insecurities that people look at you, right? So sometimes I've seen situations where you have been a star performer and somebody in the team feels it is a threat, right? And when you get a feedback like that you are a threat and it's it's not on your face, right? But when you get something like that, how do you make sure that, you are getting the people along with you? What steps can you really take to make sure that you are actually maybe not implying to be a threat, but maybe you are being foreseen as a threat? So.
I think the first thing is to know your context, who is around the ecosystem and who is perceiving you as a threat and who not, and to first of all seek support from at least few senior colleagues or your manager to really understand, because you need your allies as well, right, in such a political situation. So to really have your allies, and if one person sees as a threat, so be it, right? You cannot change the world. At least to know whether you have your own allies in the system and how that helps you steer through this troubled time.
Hi, this is Kalpana from Intel. Usually when you're in the middle to, slightly going towards the senior management, sometimes you do have differences where your values and your style of management is different from either the kingpin or the people above, right? How do you deal with sort of that dichotomy?
That's a very good question.
Most of the time, so I'm so much of advocate of stay always by your core values. I think changing your core value technically means you're going to underperform. You cannot match up with somebody else's style and still perform at the best level. This is what I always say. However, what you said is very important, because your organization needs something else. Your kingpin has a different working style. He's a very innovative guy. Imagine, this is one of the innovation, is one of the core values somebody might get, or somebody is very adventurous, somebody is caring, somebody is honest, somebody is whatever. So if your core value is something else, I think there is alignment we have to do. So you got to know what kind of profile this guy is. So if this guy is, let's say, very innovative or very aggressive, and then he's going behind all the new sales and things like that, whereas you have something else, I think what we do as an exercise is an alignment exercise. Eventually, you both are working for an organization which has a specific objective. So I think roads have to meet. And I think this is what we draw, and you also might want to draw that. You keep your own style, but with your style, how can you complement your boss's style, and then together you can achieve that goal. So in fact, that's a fantastic combination, that if everybody is doing the same way, then perhaps chances are that you are thinking only one side. Go ahead and offer this complementary skills and complementary value and complementary ways of achieving the organizational objective. I think your boss will be more than happy because that's a very different type of offerings you have. So in fact, it's a pleasant situation, I would say, that have a different style. Go ahead and then shoot for that common objective, what you have. Might find abstract or how's it? So that's what I'm saying. You're looking at your style and you're looking at his style. What I'm saying is both of you to stand together on the same side and look at the organizational objective and then draw the path.
But I agree with her. There are times when, there is just absolute tangent you have with your manager or the kingpin. I think that's what she's referring to.
You know, in my point of view, so the thing what you need to look at that point of time is it two different ways of achieving the same objective? So if your end goal is the same, then I think even if the styles are different, it is easier to somehow manage it. But if you feel, what the organization is looking at or the kingpin is looking at is not probably going to be beneficiary, so the only way to deal with it is to collect the data, right? I think if you need to prove your point, rather than, in my mind, rather than arguing about it, I think you need to have the quantitative and the qualitative information about why you think you are right. And going ahead with, and I know there are people who change sometimes, right? But it's about them getting the right information for them to change their mindset. So gather that information and go so that it's easier for them. You make the change more easier for them.
Sure. We have time for one last question.
This is Divya from Intel. My question was, we talked about how to get to a position of power, right? And when you do get to a position of power, how do you make sure you don't get carried away with it? What do you do? Because you did say that it's important to be respected in that position of power, and you need to be consistently respected. So what do you do with that?
Yeah, I think I can take it up. See, power is something, I think it is, sometimes it's a delusion. You think that you have a power. Actual power is not with the position that you have, it is with the core values that you have. So if you build saying that my core values are retained wherever I am, that means that is the power that you have. So you don't have to be carried away by that. So it is much easier. In 10 years, you may suddenly grow up the ladder, or for some people, it may take 15 years. So the person who climbs the ladder fast doesn't mean that they have all the power, that's why they've climbed up. It's only because of their commitment to the work or their core values that they are maintaining. I think if you take that in mind, never the power will become a burden to you. The power should be something, as I was mentioning, is a responsibility. If you think power is a responsibility, then never you will be in that situation. That's very important. I think so. Maybe somebody else can add it up to that.
Thank you. In the interest of time, Uma, can I request you to summarize
I
this
think
whole
we heard
discussion
a
for
lot
us?
about organizational politics, and when we were discussing yesterday, something came up because I was in another panel discussion last week, and then we heard about 6 ups, which will help a women to go up. The first thing is to show up, be present where it matters. Yeah, be present in the meetings, speak up. Yeah, speak up in the meetings, showcase your point of view, express yourself. If you have concerns, speak to the relevant people. Look up for your role models, define how they went there and get inspiration from them. Grow up, set your ambition high, define a path, move along that path. Lift others up. Once you have become a leader, try to help other people, mentor them and bring them up. And the last but not the least, don't give up. It's more important to stay in the game than leaving it halfway through.
Thank you. That's an excellent summary. You covered all the 4 stages for us through the ups. I'd like to thank all of you for giving your point of view, and especially all of you for being a great audience. We really enjoyed having all of you. Last but not the least, I'd just like to request my co-team members to come up on the stage. There's a lot of hard work that my co-team members have done in terms of collecting the scenarios. Could you please, guys, come up and for a bow?